This really is a tough Champions League group, and having just played away at PSG, narrowly losing, now it's time for a trip to Juventus. Let's go and kick some balls. Hello and welcome back to A Season with Aston Villa, a save we are taking very slowly, game by game, examining the stats and data for each and every game to try and get the best result in each game that we can. And we have got ourselves back on track just recently, having beaten Ipswich at home by 4-0 after what was possibly a poor run of form, but looking at the fixtures that we'd had, Liverpool, PSG and Tottenham, I'd take 2 draws in the Premier League and I'd take a narrow defeat against PSG. A goal in the last minute cost us that game. And so it was now the turn of Juventus in the Champions League. This is the third game that we are playing in the group. We are currently in second. We have 3 points, having beaten Bruges in our opening game. And Juventus are currently bottom of the group. And Bruges had beaten them in the last encounter by 2-1. And I really wanted to take a look at what had happened in that game. So before I do anything in terms of data, what I wanted to do was to go and have a look at that game against Bruges and find out how the teams were playing. And so I can see that Juventus pretty much dominated the possession. They had 68% of the possession. They created 11 chances, 5 were on target. But Bruges created 6 chances and 5 were on target. A much better record for Bruges in front of goal. When they had a chance, they took it. When Juventus had chances, they didn't take it, and I guess that's the story of the game. Possession is good, but if you don't create really good chances with that possession, then the chances are you're not going to get the result that you want. And Juventus, unfortunately, didn't achieve the result they wanted. But I wanted to have a look at the game visually, and so that was where I was going to start. And I had a look at the first 20 minutes. I just wanted to see how the players were performing on the pitch. And if you are wondering how I was able to watch the full match, because as you can see, you can just watch key highlights, extended or comprehensive, if you click here. It's very, very simple. You just go to analytical data, go to teams, pick anything like tackles 1, click on one of those, go to watch highlight, and it will show you the highlight. You have to wait until the highlight is over, until this screen reappears. Click OK, click back, and now I've got access to the whole of the game, and it will play through the whole of the game. And that's how you do that. And so I wanted to go and have a look at some of the highlights. So right from the get-go, I was able to see how Juventus were playing. And Bruges have just lost the ball, and you can see that they are scampering back into position. Juventus now are just going to pass it around. It looks to me like they are playing a controlled possession. They're not in any hurry, but if you look at the block here from Bruges, you can see they are sitting in a mid-block. They are not going to engage them in their third of the pitch, and we'll see this clearly in a little bit. But that's how they are set up. They're going to get back into shape and not allow Juventus to play once they get over the halfway line. And so once it starts up again, you can see that they're passing it around very slowly, very controlled possession, but it's all backwards and sideways in their own third of the pitch. And Bruges are not getting involved at this stage. They're just getting back into shape, and they are then putting them under pressure once they get over the halfway line and the ball was turned over. And when Bruges attack, it's much more direct, and they are playing longer passes. You can see there's one out to the wing. He tries to get away from the fullback, but unfortunately the ball's turned over. And at this point, you can see everybody scampering back into position from Bruges, just to sit back again, wait till they turn the ball over again, and it doesn't matter how long it takes them. They're just going to sit there and wait. And Juventus keep hold of the ball. It is very controlled possession, and they're just going to sit and wait. And they try to set up an opportunity. It comes to nothing. It's headed out. It's a poor cross. And Bruges are going to break again. And they're going to break at speed. It's very direct. And there's almost a ball into space for the forward to run into. You can see here exactly where the block is. They are not going to engage until at least Juventus get as far as that red line. And so basically they have a pressing forward on his own. You'll see the pressing forward. He will break the line and he's going to try and make himself a nuisance. But the others are pretty much staying in the shape in those three banks of players and allowing Juventus to pass the ball around. They're still passing it around as we move through the first 15 minutes or so. It's still not happening for Juventus. They still can't find any space in between the lines that Bruges have set up, and they are forced backwards again. From a throw-in, Juventus try to build again, but it's all backwards. They're being forced back again. He's forced to turn and go backwards. They're probably playing with a high trigger press, but no counter press. They're just going to regroup, and this is what I'm seeing. And I'm seeing that Juventus are playing this very controlled passing game. They try to go long. It comes to nothing because all the space is taken up, and Bruges are able to attack again at pace. And when Bruges attacked, they went at pace, at a high tempo, trying to create opportunities, but it came to nothing again. And again, this is an example of how hard it is for Juventus to create a chance when Bruges was sitting in this block. And I think it's a mid-block, but again, I thought, yes, they've got a chance here. Can they get the ball to someone who's free? But I think the high defensive line that they're playing has prevented that from happening. Comes out again, tries to find someone on the edge of the box. But like much of what I saw, it came to nothing. And looking at the stats, it's hard to believe that Juventus had actually lost this game. But unfortunately, if you don't take your chances on the day, then you don't win football matches. So let's just clear this. I wanted to go and have a look at the passes that had been going on for Juventus. And Juventus had completed 434 passes, and immediately I can see the V shape of the passes that are going on. And when I went through and I clicked through all of these, I ended up looking at the forward direction passes, and what caught my eye in particular was the longer passes. And if we look at the long passes for perhaps the attacking half of the field, let's go to long passes, then I can see that there's a number of long passes, and I'm suspecting that those are passes that are played over the top, all of them going down the left-hand side. If I look at the medium passes, there's also a lot of medium passes going on in the attacking third, and so it's not all short passes that they're playing. There's a lot of passes going down the left-hand side, short passes. So I'm getting a sense that the left-hand side of the field is just a slightly more difficult for us than the right-hand side. Probably needs a bit more defending down the left. As you can see, it's a lot deeper down the right-hand side, but still a threat. And they're going to be very, very dangerous areas for us. I knew from looking through the team that they had very pacey wingers, and I was very, very aware of these long passes going out to the left, and I needed to be very wary, very cautious about these passes over the top. So I'd had a look at the passes, if we clear all that data. If they were playing out wide, I wanted to have a look pretty much at the crosses, and so if we just tick all these again and have a look at all the crosses that they attempted, and we just click on these until we've run out, you can see that most of the crosses were actually coming in from the right hand side. If I just click on the completed crosses, one was a corner and one each from either side. So it's telling me that they're dangerous on both sides, and that they were going to try and get behind the defense and put these crosses in or slip a cut back into somebody coming on from midfield to the ball. So I'm very, very aware of the crosses. If I then have a look at the headers won, there are some headers that are won in the penalty area. This one probably not very dangerous, but 2 on the edge of the 6-yard box are probably quite dangerous. And so I'm getting a sense that they're going to attack me down the flanks. So if we now go to the heat map and I put the heat map on for Juventus, you see much of it is down the middle. But there is an emphasis on going wide, especially down the left-hand side. They're going to play very evenly across the pitch, which suggests to me now that this is not a controlled possession, it's a tiki-taka that they're playing. It's a little bit more aggressive than the controlled possession, and they're going to press us a lot harder. If I have a look at the pass combinations and then take off the heat map, you can see that much of the passing is going on down the left-hand side. So I suspected it's probably better for me to play down the left-hand side of the pitch rather than take them on down the right. I wasn't really seeing a great deal from the data hub that I hadn't seen in the visual game that I watched, but I wanted to go and have a look at the PSG game just to confirm what I was thinking. And PSG had actually really outplayed them and had, although as we can see, Juventus had most of the ball, and when we look at the possession, Juventus had outpassed them. They had 56% of the possession, but PSG were also a good team and they created more clear-cut chances than Juventus. Juventus only created 5 chances with an XG of 0.28. Paris Saint-Germain were a better team, as we can clearly see. Going quickly to the possession and heat map for Juventus, you can see that they were passing the ball around at the back. They were quite patient, but PSG obviously were actually matching them. And so PSG were playing down their right-hand side, which I think was probably my intention, to attack them down that side. And again, you can see that Juventus were playing the ball around pretty much down the left-hand side, although they were very much a threat down the right. I think that looking at it, I think what PSG had done is nullified the threat that was coming from out wide. And so I had an idea of how they were going to play. I just wanted to check in the data hub to see if what I was thinking was actually correct. And yeah, you can see that possession lost. I don't even have to open these up. They lost most of their possession in the opposition half, so they're going to play very high up the pitch. And they gained possession in the around about the halfway line most of the time, so they're playing with a high line, but they are playing very, very cautiously, and they're not going to be panicking to get the ball forward. They're going to keep possession. We've seen their possession stats. Their defensive actions occurred all over the pitch, which suggests, again, that they have got a high line and they've got a big press going on. And again, confirmed by most of their passes are just before the halfway line or just after the halfway line. They're playing a very, very high pressing game. If we look at their crossing, because this is of a concern to me, they cross less than the average team, but they are very accurate in terms of crossing when they do. So I got a sense of how I wanted to play them. I also wanted to take a look at the strengths and weaknesses, but this really didn't tell me much, except that they were a very, very good team, and I could not, as the away team, take them lightly just because they had been beaten by Bruges. Bruges had not created too much, but they had taken their chances, and I couldn't guarantee that we were about to do the same. So what I did in terms of the way we were going to set up is that I decided that it might be prudent to play in a 4-3-3. This was kind of a defensive setup that I was actually setting up. I was going to play with a balanced mentality, but we were going to play with a shorter passing game at a much higher tempo. Again, I felt that I needed to create movement if we were going to beat them. I was going to focus my play up through the middle because that's where we were strong. I didn't think that we had enough firepower up on the flanks, so I decided just to focus through the middle for the time being. We were going to sit back. We were going to break at speed. We were also going to play for set pieces, dribble less, be more disciplined. It was a very defensive setup that I was looking at. We were going to regroup when possession was lost, but when we won the ball, we were going to try and get it forward as fast as possible. And I was going to sit in a low block. And because I was very, very concerned about the long balls that I'd been seeing, to the left in particular, I decided to start with a lower line and step up more with a more often trigger press. I felt that I wanted to make sure they were not going to get in these spaces behind us because we could be vulnerable if they actually managed to get in behind me. This was a very, very defensive setup that I had gone into. I wanted to come away with something. I had to get at least a point. If I lost this game, knowing that Paris Saint-Germain were probably going to beat Bruges, I could end up at the bottom of the table or at least in third place, 3 points behind at the halfway stage. I didn't want that to happen, so I wanted to get some sort of result here. I was going to sit back pretty much as Bruges had done and try to hit them on the counter-attack at speed, at a high tempo, but focusing my play where I felt we were strong through the middle of the pitch. That was the game plan. I was unsure of this game. We were the away team, and I was very wary that this could end in a defeat. So let's go and see how we got on. And so this very, very tough run of fixtures was continuing. But we had achieved a 0-0 draw, and I was happy with that. We'd got something out of the game. And that actually left us sitting in second place, ahead of Bruges, and Juventus sitting at the bottom, still with only 1 point from their 3 games. I know that Paris Saint-Germain are romping ahead at this stage. The important thing is to try and stay in second place at this point. And we were just doing that. And by getting a 0-0 draw away at Juventus, I felt that was a good result. We had played the 2 most difficult teams away and we had to play them at home next, so all was set fair. We could possibly get something out of those games at home. So we weren't doing too bad, but this difficult run continues. But I want to just quickly go through the stats. And if we look at some of the stats, we actually did well in terms of trying to get possession. We had 47% of the possession, much better than any of the other two teams that we looked at had done. We created more opportunities. We had 6 opportunities, 4 were on target. Juventus, we limited them to 5 opportunities on goal and only 3 on target, and I think 2 of those were in the last few minutes of the game. And if we just quickly go and have a look at the possession, let's start with the passes and go to the combinations and look at Aston Villa. We did focus mostly down the left-hand side, or our pass combinations were mostly down the left-hand side, but we played better on the right-hand side of the field. And if I just look at the heat map now of the game, if we look at our heat map, let's just clear that and just bring up the heat map for us. You can see we played most of the game down the left-hand side. And through the middle as wasn't really working, and I did change that in the second half when I moved to playing more down the left hand side, and that kind of shows in the heat map. In terms of Juventus, they had a great deal of possession down the right hand side. They were more dangerous down the left when it came to it, and they did seek out the left winger with these long passes. They had blistering pace on the wings, but the lower line meant that they never got behind us, and we were able to just keep them out. That's the kind of game it was. We were just keeping them out. So now we have to go and play Wolves, a local derby. These fixtures just keep coming. And I'm hoping, though, that we're going to get 3 points from that game. Wolves are sitting at the bottom of the league. They're in trouble. We should be winning that game and putting a nice green dot on the screen and getting another 3 points that will hopefully keep us on top of the table. It's all square between Aston Villa and Tottenham, with Manchester City and Arsenal breathing very close down our neck. But there is a gap opening up to 5th, 6th and 7th place, and we're sitting in a comfortable position at the moment, and we are 7 points clear of Manchester United in 5th place. So it's going to be another big one, Wolves versus Aston Villa, and we'll be back next time for the preparation for that game, how we set up the game itself, and a quick analysis after. And that's it for this video. If you are brand new to the channel, do all that good stuff that you can see on the screen. It does help the channel, and don't forget to give us a like. And all that remains to be said now is stay safe, take care. I will see you for the Wolves game.